Hello and welcome to the Etoft21sports show for May 30th. How is everyone doing? My name is Eric. We have a phenomenal show lined up for you today. My boy Kyle, aka the DFS Bachelor, him and I are going to be giving you a betting preview for the NBA Finals, and Gino is going to have his horse racing bet of the day from Penn National on Friday. Those watching on Twitch, please hit that follow button, helps me out. Those watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button, helps me out. Before we jump into everything, I'd like to give a thank you to the sponsor of the show, the Sharps betting app. If you're not using Sharps, you're really messing out. Make sure you go to it, use promo code ETOF, that's ETOF 499. That way they know I sent you. You can interact with bettors in real time. You can talk about plays, post your bets. You can fade the public, tail the Sharps. If you're not using the Sharps betting app, you are insanely missing out. Link to that, if you're watching on YouTube, is in my bio. Now let's shift our attention over to Penn National and see what Gino has a cooking for us today.
Some big races going on this weekend at Penn National on Friday night. So I've already taken a look ahead. Figured I'd share one with you. Hope everyone's having a nice start to your week. Make sure to tune in every week for the best info in sports with Eric right here. Let's move to Penn National's 8th race. One of the stakes races. They have a lot of stakes races on this Friday card. And this race is 6 furlongs on the dirt. Like always, I'm looking at DRF, Daily Racing Form, for the past performances. And I'm going to go to the number 5 in here, Simply Stated. So this is a race for 3-year-old fillies that are Pennsylvania breds. This group is a lot of horses that have, competed at lower levels. You do see Hunting Coco has actually faced good company as well. But Simply Stated debuted against Open Company at Penn National against fillies. She won that race back in August. Then she was off from August all the way to May. She shows back up in May. She's in a race against the boys and against Open Company. And she actually ran really well that day. She finished second. She kind of moved through on the inside. Now she's going to go second start off the bench. She's going to put 2 starts together here. She gets back in with Pennsylvania bred fillies. So this should be a really nice spot for her. I think this one has some ability. She can sit off the pace a little bit. The number 5, Simply Stated. This is Friday night at Penn National, race number 8. It goes off at about 8:45 p.m. Eastern time. Anytime you need to make a wager, just head to drf.com for DRF bets. If you ever want to do your research, drf.com for all the past performances. Good luck.
Make sure to give my boy Gino a follow at It's Me, Gino B. He has a podcast that comes out every single week, talks Star Wars, horse betting, NFL, NBA, MLB, you name it. He talks about it. Now, without further ado, let's bring my boy, a.k.a. the DFS Bachelor, Kyle, to the show. Kyle, how you doing today, my man?
I'm doing great. A couple things, okay? We got a couple things we got to address here. Number one, we got to get you an easier code for the Sharps. We got to do something different than the 499, 8675309. So
okay,
we got to work on that. Okay, number one, we got to get you a better code. Just go off the top of my head. And number 2, Gino doing the Godfather thing without his face being on there. Was it just a bad hair day for young Bacola, and he's just having a bad hair day? And number 3, I'm actually mad at him that I haven't gone on the podcast and talked Star Wars. I don't want to talk sports on this podcast. I want to talk merely Star Wars and 90s wrestling. That's it. That's what I got.
Did
I just come in hot and just ruin it all? I just ruined it all.
Hot, dude. And you know what? That's why I love you, because you just come in hot, just boom, 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 boom. You got to do this, you got to do that. And I'll tell you what, dude. I will give you credit because, I listen to people. I don't know if you remember. I think it was a year and a half, 2 years ago. You just point blankly said, "Dude, why the F aren't you betting player props in the NBA?"
Right. Yeah.
And now,
player props in the
NBA. You got me starting to bet player props in the NBA. So I love you for that. You tell it how it is. I'll talk to my boy Josh, see if I can get an easier promo code, and I'll tell Gino to show.
I love it. Tell him the 499. I'm like, wait, what the hell is going on here? You need something catchy. You need something since you're the celebrity, you need a paparazzi thing, something, because you're the insider. You're friends with all the stars and all the sports. So.
Oh my God, I do have to tell you who's new on the Rolodex too. You're going to be really thoroughly impressed. Wait. But we're here to talk some NBA. NBA Finals obviously starts up in a couple days. But before we talk about that, some big news has been made with what Scottie Pippen said about Michael Jordan. I'm going to pull this up right here. I'm going to play this clip for everybody just so they can hear it.
LeBron will be the greatest statistical guy to ever play the game of basketball. And there's no comparison to him. None. So, does that make him the greatest player to ever play the game? I'll leave that out for debating because I don't believe that there's a great player because our game is a team game and one player can't do it. Like, I seen Michael Jordan play before I came to play with the Bulls. You guys seen him play. He's a horrible player. He was horrible to play with. He was all one-on-one. He's shooting bad shots. And all of a sudden, we become a team and we start winning. Everybody forgot who he was.
All right. So, what the hell was that, dude?
Well, he's on drugs, obviously. So let's preface this with a few things. Scottie Pippen's a little salty, and we all know why. His son has been banging his ex-wife. Michael Jordan's son was rumored. I didn't think they were seen. I mean, as far as I know, Michael Jordan's kid was banging his ex-wife, was banging Scottie Pippen's ex-wife. I mean, who hasn't? What young man with money hasn't banged Scottie Pippen's ex-wife? So let's just call that what it is, right? And so for Scottie Pippen to say Michael Jordan was a horrible player before he arrived, let's look at a few things. Number one, so Scottie Pippen's rookie year was the 87-88 season, right? He averaged 7.8 points per game and shot 56% from the free throw line. Okay, that's what Scottie Pippen did in his rookie year. The year before Scottie Pippen joined the Bulls, Michael Jordan averaged 37 points a game, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. If you remember the year before, he had actually gotten hurt the season before, and he only played 18 games. They would only let him play 20 minutes a game. And then remember, Michael was pissed that he was only playing 20 minutes. He gets into the end. They squeak in as an 8 seed. Michael, if you remember that last game, of course, we were kids, but if you do your history on the NBA, that last game they had to win to get into the playoffs. Michael would not come out of the game, played the 40 minutes. Then he gets into the playoffs. They cut him loose. And all that happened was, an NBA record 63 points in Boston Garden against Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, DJ, and one of the best, greatest Celtics teams to ever live. Michael Jordan dominated that series.
Yeah.
So Scottie Pippen sounds like, are we allowed to cuss on here?
We're allowed to cuss. We're allowed to cuss.
I'll say effing idiot. He sounds like an idiot. Okay. He sounds ridiculous. Scottie Pippen wasn't relevant until Michael Jordan made him relevant.
High. I think he is high. I think
Scottie Pippen's high. Scottie Pippen was, first of all, if it wasn't for Michael Jordan, if you remember all the years after when Scottie became an all-star and he became, and look, I'll give Scottie Pippen credit. The year that Jordan left, he did take the Bulls to the Eastern Conference Finals that year with Pete Myers filling in at shooting guard, and they lost in Game 7 to the Knicks that year, and the Knicks would go on to lose to Hakeem Olajuwon of the Rockets, of course. But for him to say he didn't play defense, I guess 9 times on the first All-NBA defense, I guess never averaging less than 2 steals a game until the season he came back, the 94-95 season where he played the last 18 games and they went on to lose to Orlando, only to come back the next year and avenge their loss and sweep the Magic in that series. If you remember, I believe it was maybe it was a gentleman's sweep in that series in 95-96. But Scottie Pippen was sitting out games. If you remember, near the end of that run, he was holding out because he wanted a new contract. It was agreed he was grossly underpaid. He was making $4 or $5 million a year, much less than he should have at market value. But do you know why he was grossly underpaid? Do you know why that wasn't a huge contract and why he was able to go fleece the Blazers and the Rockets for way more money than he was worth later in his career as an injured Scottie Pippen? It's because of Michael Jordan. The NBA was literally going bankrupt. Magic and Bird helped a little bit in the late 70s, early 80s. Michael Jordan put them on a different stratosphere. You're not signing a $30 million deal in 1999 as Scottie Pippen if it's not from Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is the logo. Now, we got one thing right. LeBron probably will be the greatest statistical player to ever play. And there's lots of stat compilers, like guys like Drew Brees. Tom Brady, he has the titles, he played forever. But the idea, and I'm not accusing LeBron of being a compiler at all. LeBron's had tons of success, and he's one of the top 3 players of all time.
He starts piling on stats down 20 in an
elimination. No. But Scottie Pippen's preface, the problem I have a part with is saying there's no such thing as a great player. Well, that's because and I mean, a lot of people consider Scottie a great player, but I think what he is saying, he's spent a lifetime of everyone saying you rode the coattails of Michael Jordan, and he's getting older, he's getting more crotchety, and it sounds like he's getting a lot higher. He's getting higher and he's getting bitter because he sounds ridiculous. Nothing he said made any sense. Michael Jordan, so Scottie Pippen's rookie year, Michael Jordan averaged 35, 6, and 6. So he's not just shooting 50% from the field, by the way, on 27 field goal attempts per game. And back then, the NBA was not a perimeter game. It was a big man's league. There's a reason Sam Bowie was drafted ahead of Michael Jordan, because you won with big men. Big men, big men, big men. It was a league of big men. You didn't build your team around guards. It's just not something that happened in the early 80s. No one had ever won a title building their team around a guard. Even the Lakers, Jerry West was their best player. They lost 10 times or 9 times to the Celtics. He was 1-9 in the NBA Finals. They needed the big guys, Wilt and Kareem and Olajuwon and Moses Malone, all these guys. That's how you won in the NBA. He changed the entire league. And he did it in a time where you were allowed to absolutely mutilate guards who came into the lane. I mean, you're telling LeBron James made it to the NBA Finals and was scared to post up JJ Barea, who I could post up right now. Michael Jordan was obliterated by those bad boy Pistons. LeBron James would have folded into a tiny little ball and left the league if he had to face the kind of physical play that the NBA allowed back in the late 80s and early 90s. So what Scottie Pippen is saying is absolutely ridiculous. He sounds bitter. He sounds stupid. Just shut the fuck up, Scottie Pippen. That's what
He's been bitter since The Last Dance. He has been so bitter since The Last Dance. And I really think the stuff going on with his ex-wife and Jordan's kid just
doesn't help.
Took him over that level. And we need to remember, Jordan, every time he talks, says there would be no Michael Jordan if there wasn't Scottie Pippen. So he gives him props.
He never does that to Scottie Pippen. Michael never does that to Scottie, ever. He didn't even do it when he was holding out in those years when Michael was carrying the team on his back, tired. You got to remember. So he missed those, that year and a half with, after his father died. But he went to 6 straight NBA. Every year he played, he went to the NBA Finals. That takes a toll on your body. You're playing an extra 30 games every single, in some cases, 20. And we're going to get to that when we kind of talk about this next series.
And we need to remember, not to cut you off, 82 games. He played 82. Right.
All 82. And then, no load management. No nothing. No nothing. So this idea that, and I get LeBron's stats will be greater because he's played more years, and modern science has obviously been a huge factor. His size and strength, he's a physical freak of nature. I mean, everyone's known that since LeBron was in high school. We said, hey, this guy's got that Magic Johnson type deal. And Magic Johnson was another one of those physical freaks of nature for his position. He was unable to last as long because obviously the AIDS pandemic and, 1990 happened. And I mean that, or Magic. And if you remember, Magic came back like 5 years later to be a player coach. He came back and played and was successful playing in the NBA. So there's a lot of factors why LeBron's going to have the better stats, but we're fortunate enough to have lived through both eras. And anyone who's watched both players play and seen what happens when the moment matters the most, anyone who thinks they'd rather have LeBron James and Michael Jordan, I got a bunch of magic beans to sell you. And if you grow them, they're $1,000 a piece. When you grow them, you'll go up to the top and you'll meet a giant. You'll get to steal a golden harp. If you're that stupid, hit me up for the beans.
Okay, I have a trivia question for you.
Oh,
who is
trivia?
The only top 25 player in NBA history to have a series win over Michael Jordan, Larry Bird, and Magic Johnson?
Okay, let me think about this a little bit here. Oh, it's probably Isaiah Thomas.
Yep, my boy Zeke, dude. My boy Zeke.
Yeah. Which, I mean, there's a lot of stuff with Isaiah Thomas. I don't know, top 25 players, I think is a stretch. I don't mind Isaiah. But of course, you remember the big snub. That he was great. No, Isaiah Thomas was really good. You remember, and for some reason, and I hate that I do this, but I'm a human being, his stock dropped for me, all the stuff with him being an executive and how weird he was as an analyst. I don't know.
He was an awful, terrible analysis guy. But I'll tell you what, he can play ball. and we're just judging on playing ball.
And then he got snubbed. You remember it was our boy Michael Jordan who wouldn't let him play on the Dream Team because Michael absolutely hated Isaiah Thomas.
Zeke zoned him out in that All-Star game. Zeke who told everyone not to pass to him. So, dude, look, I get it. Like, but back then they were.
Oh, I'm happy I got that trivia question right because I'd look like a real dumb asshole if I got it wrong, right?
Back then they were rivals, dude. They hated each other. It's like completely different. Like back then, like if you were rivals, you physically hated each other. Now it's like they go to Cancun together and hang out. It's a completely different mindset.
That's why I'm glad the Celtics lost and Jason Tatum got hurt. I loved all that. You know what really pissed? I'm a Lakers guy, obviously, and Kobe's. I loved MJ and he's an icon. But like the player who brought me the most joy in my life was Kobe Bryant. And I completely agree. I think Kobe's better than LeBron too, and I can have this debate with people. It'll take forever, and I get everything else. But the closest thing we'll ever see to a Michael Jordan, who I believe, in my view, is the pinnacle of the NBA, is Kobe Bryant. And when I saw, even though I love Kobe, when I saw Jason Tatum last year wear a Kobe arm sleeve during the playoffs, look. The day that Kobe crashed in that helicopter, I was doing an NBA DFS show, and this is before he had crashed. My thumbnail that day was Kobe Bryant. I love Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
It's a sad day. Is a sad day. But you think Kobe would ever wear a Celtics armband around his?
Never. Not a chance.
In a playoff game?
Not a
never
chance
in a million years. And I hate the Celtics anyways. And so it just made me happy to see him lose. It did.
If Kobe stayed out of Colorado, he would have surpassed Jordan.
Yeah. Look, I know some funny inside details about that case that but yeah, I don't know if it derailed his career. That season was certainly a disappointment. If you remember that 2004 season, we had signed an aging Karl Malone who, has his own issues as well. People don't talk a lot about Karl Malone and his weirdness too, with kids and a 13-year-old. I'm not even sure if it's a cousin. A lot of weird stuff with Karl Malone. You'll have to look that stuff up and make your own judgments. But we had signed Gary Payton, Karl Malone. Of course, we had that. That was the year that Derek Fisher made the shot in 0.7 seconds to beat the Spurs to advance. Just a crazy year and a lot of distraction. That's when it kind of all unfolded. The Pistons beat the brakes off us in the finals. And Kobe and Shaq, that's when the Kobe and Shaq feud started. And really how the feud started was when Kobe was being questioned by the police about this girl. He said, well, Shaq does it all the time. And Shaq took umbrage with him dropping Shaq's name.
That's the wheels fell off. And you always wonder what could have been because those two were so dominant together.
But I don't know if that stopped Kobe. I don't think Kobe was ever going to be able to surpass Jordan. Because Michael Jordan, when you do what he did, when you transcend a sport, it's like Tiger Woods, right? Like Tiger Woods isn't the greatest statistical golfer of all time. He doesn't have the most majors or even the most tournament wins. But everyone knows when Tiger Woods was on, he was by far, and it's not even close, the most dominant golfer who ever lived.
A full level above.
Just head and shoulders above the rest. And when you create that sort of force field around your legacy, it was always going to be, especially with the type of personality that Kobe was, really, really difficult to sort of break through that. The media loved Michael, if you remember, during his time. And it was a different time for him. The internet was just kind of starting when MJ went away and just kind of starting and really morphing into, social media and 24/7 News Sports Center on ESPN and all these ways where you have access to what everyone does that you just didn't have when Michael Jordan was younger. All the trips to Atlantic City are stories of, they're like these nostalgic stories in the back.
Think about the photos that would be up on Twitter or the Gram or Snapchat right now that was going on.
Of Michael Jordan in Atlantic City at 2 a.m. before a playoff game the next day.
Oh,
yeah, quite a few.
Phenomenal.
Quite a few.
Obviously, you mentioned it. There was a Game 7 yesterday with the Celtics and Heat. What were your thoughts on that game?
Well, I mean, it's a bummer that there was the injury. Hold on. Sorry, I had to do a little house cleaning. So it was a little bit of a bummer that Tatum got hurt early on, right? Because there's the excuse that goes on. But when you watch the game, it kind of showed you that Game 6 was where Boston was never intended to win game 6. That was a final destination situation waiting to happen. As soon as they won game 6 on that weird tip in, you knew something was up in game 7. But if Boston can't hit the 3, they panic. They get into this one-on-one where Jaylen Brown tries to do more than he's really capable of doing. And you saw the wheels falling off early. I'm happy for the Heat. I'm a Lakers fan. I'm not a big Celtics fan. And I like seeing history. So now we have the Nuggets making the finals for the first time ever. We have Miami, the first 8 seed to ever make the finals. I think it's a cool NBA finals. It's not going to be the most watched, of course. It doesn't involve the Lakers, the Celtics, the Knicks, LeBron and the big stars. But I do think we have the coolest story in the NBA and an 8 seed making the finals in Miami. And I think we have the best player in the NBA, Nikola Jokic, on the other side, who I really think deserves. This Denver team, in my view, deserves it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting on 20-1. I hope they win it. You mentioned it. They were 9 of 42 from 3. That is 21.4%. They live and die by the 3. You mentioned it. My big thing with the Celtics, and they started to do a little bit of it last year, was the dribble drive kick. Ball just, you mentioned it. Ball just sticks to Tatum. Brown's hand doesn't move. And you mentioned Brown. He had 8 shots and 8 turnovers. He had as many turnovers as he did shots in a game 7. There was a point in the third quarter they were running their offense through Derek White, who wasn't even starting at the beginning of the season. Wasn't even starting at the beginning of the season. They were running their offense through Derek White. And then also, now this is at the beginning of the game, probably had nothing, but we all know basketball is all about momentum. At the 6:53 mark in the first quarter, Smart gets a rebound, is looking to push it. They're up 9-4, and Mazzulla takes a timeout. After that timeout, 18-6 run to end the quarter for the Heat. Heat's biggest player is Bam Adebayo, 6'9".
Yeah.
Celtics have Horford and Rob Williams, and they got out-rebound. I mean, that just
isn't Jason Tatum 6'9" too? He's a 6'9" kid too, like Boston. These are both small teams, but of the two teams, you'd say Boston had the size advantage. They didn't seem to use it at all, and they certainly didn't have the toughness advantage. And it was weird because I like when weird things happen. I've always said, you had the trend of all trends, right? Betting. If you're a trend better, which I typically am not, because there's so many holes you can poke into trends, especially when you do these historic trends of 40 years, like, well, teams that are 3-0 or 0-150 in these situations, well, and coming back, yeah, you got to, and I think they were the first team though to ever host a game 7 at home after being down 0-3, which I thought was unique, which was very unique. So I had this weird part of me kind of pulling for that side of it, but then I was happy that Miami be the first 8 seed, even though it was weird, but that's what's cool. It's nice. It's different. It's not Kevin Durant and Steph Curry and Golden State. It's not LeBron and the Lakers. We got something different this year. We got something a whole lot different. I think eventually it'll be good for the NBA. Denver has a chance to go on a nice little run here. They got a nice roster, and Jokic is a really, really special player.
Now, one more thing with the Celtics. What do you think they do? I mean, I did a little research, and this is what I found out. So if I'm Jaylen Brown. To sign the Supermax, I get $224 million with the Celtics. But if I sign with another team, I get $184.5 million.
Yep.
Now, I'm looking at a difference of $40 million. What you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to sign with the Celtics here. Then after the year, the Celtics can move them. I mean, that's what I do if I'm Brown. But I don't know, like, after he shit the bed, excuse my language, I don't know what you can get for him. Are the Wizards really going to look to, okay, here's Bradley Beal, like, are they really going to want to trade for Jordan Poole, like, who I think's awful? Like, I just don't know what you can get from Brown. I think you run it back and see what you got, just because it is so wide open.
It seems like a lot of money to spend on Jaylen Brown, right? Like, I like Jaylen Brown, good defender, an exciting player, but he's not consistently great. We're not saying this is a top 20 guy of all time. And now we're like, hey, here's $300 million, which I just can't even believe where the contracts are going with the NBA. But there are teams. So and you're 100% right, and his agents will be thinking the same thing, his family, everything else, about that $40 million. Number one, if you're Boston, do you want to give him this crazy supermax? Like, yeah, you've made 2 straight finals, but God, that's a lot of money to give to a guy not named Giannis. But there's teams and states without the tax, and I think that's important. Like states like Florida, Texas, that don't have some of those taxes that Massachusetts will have. You could see where that money would even out. If you're paying $30 million less in taxes, say over the span of a career to live in Florida, maybe a team like Miami intrigues him. Maybe a team down in Texas like San Antonio, who's desperate for star power and used to winning. If they can find the money, I don't know how they would in that small market or a market like Houston, which is a big market, and they certainly have the money to spend. I don't know what the deal with Houston is, but it's not like they don't have money to spend in Houston. And Mark Cuban likes to spend money in Dallas. He's thinking about doing it for Kyrie Irving. So maybe Dallas is an interesting landing spot for Jaylen Brown.
I'll tell you what, I'm not the biggest Jordan Poole fan. I think I was harping on this last year. I'm just not a fan of how he plays. I don't think he can be a one guy. If he can't handle coming off the bench, how is he going to handle, obviously, like start in Boston, being the second fiddle to Tatum? I think he needs to go to me, who's the kid in Houston, not Houston, Charlotte, Ball. Plays on a poor team, best player on a poor team, never makes the playoffs when he sniffs a play. That's my ceiling of Jordan Poole. I don't think if you want to win a championship, you can bring in Jordan Poole. Maybe I'll be proven wrong.
Did you like it when Draymond put? See, you know what I don't like about Jordan Poole, and I think you're right because he just doesn't have it now. Can you imagine, like a younger guy like him? Can you imagine someone punching like a Ron Artest in the face at practice, and just the guy going away for 10 days and he comes back? It's okay. Where's that fight in you? You don't just punch me in the face, and I don't beat your ass when you come back around me. You're not just gonna disappear for 10 days and say. Come back and say, I said, I'm sorry. And you don't even defend he got punked out. He looked like a punk. That's what I think. I think Jordan Poole looked like a punk. And if you're not going to defend yourself in real life, what are you going to do on a basketball court when it's head to head, mano a mano? You know what I mean? You got to have that killer in you. I'm not sure.
Jordan $500K for that broad. He went down to, like that female rapper. I guess they went on a date and he paid $500K for a date. And then after that.
No, he didn't.
Yeah.
So he's desperate. So he's got no game. He's not a closer. He doesn't know how to seal the deal. Yeah. Well, if Jordan Poole would just take like $2,000 and go hang out at TGI Fridays and just take the drunkest one at 2 a.m., he won't have to spend $500,000. It's a pretty easy recipe.
Friday, it's like $500. It's not even.
Yeah. It's an easy recipe. They have that little dance floor. You wait till it starts dwindling down. The drunkest girl. I mean, you don't have to spend $500,000.
Let's look at this finals. Obviously the $1 million question, can Bam, you can't stop Joker, can he contain him?
Right.
What do you think?
And
I don't think he can.
So I saw that one book was offering will Jokic average a triple double, and the yes was -125, which is just ridiculous. Absurd. So I would take the no. If your book's offering, I would take the no on that because of all the things that have to go right for you to average a triple double. And let's not forget, Spoelstra is a good defensive minded coach. Like he is. Yeah, go to Hooters. Exactly. Cool Kev's got to figure it out. It's not that hard. You don't need to spend $500K. Like what the hell is going on here? But it's very difficult to average a triple double, and I gotta expect they're gonna do things to try to make him a little uncomfortable. Whether that's, hey, maybe we just make him go one-on-one. If that happens. If they say, we're not going to double Jokic, we're just going to guard him one-on-one, let him score his points. Well, guess what's not happening? He's not averaging 10 assists a game. It's just not going to happen. Now, if they do double him, you could see if they decide they are going to double him, which I suspect they won't do. I think they're going to they'll take the twos for the threes. I think they learned a nice lesson here in Boston, trade the twos for the threes. If they continue to shoot the three the way they are, my goodness, Miami's shooting through the roof. But I mean, how do you bet Jokic -350 to win the MVP? You're betting that? Nobody. Will he probably win the MVP? Sure. If I'm putting $50,000 on an MVP vote, I'm laying it on Jokic at -350. Yeah. But if I'm laying $100 or $50, like most of us do, like most normal, I need more meat on the bone, right? So you can't bet Jokic there. Is he going to average a triple-double? That's crazy. It's insane that, like, even though he could do it, there's certainly a world where he could. He nearly did it for the entire season. He's a phenomenal player. But you got to think there's going to be a blowout game here or there where he doesn't play all the minutes. There's going to be a game where they don't double him, so he doesn't get as many assists. They double him more one game, maybe he gets. There's going to be different approaches thrown at him throughout the series. So, to me, a good defensive team like Miami, who, let me just look at something real quick here with them. They actually allowed the fewest fantasy points in the league to opposing centers. If you go by FanDuel scoring, the Miami Heat allowed the fewest fantasy points to opposing centers. So if your book is asking you, will he average a triple-double, and you're getting minus 125 to the yes, I would say you're probably getting, what, plus 105, plus 110 to the no. That's where the value is. 150, yeah, that's where the value is.
What I was told by somebody who is in the know with the Heat, he told me they look at it like Bam can't stop Joker. They need to say, hey, if you score 30, you score 30, but we don't want you to have more than 8 assists. And the guy we need to stop is Jamal Murray. And that's going to be how we funnel our defense to. Zone. I mean, I don't think you can do the zone with Joker because he's just going to put him at the top and he's just going to be able to do it. So I think the zone's going to be non-effective. My worry for the Heat is their lack of size. Just listen to this.
Yeah.
Martin and Strus, 6'5". Butler and Robinson, 6'7". Highsmith, 6'7". Lowry, 6 foot. Vincent, 6'2". How are they going to be able to do anything on the glass against Joker, Porter, Aaron Gordon, Jeff Green, all those guys, KCP? How are they going to, even if the Nuggets shoot poorly, how are they going to limit these second chance points?
Yeah, it's got to be a team effort, and that starts to be the problem, right? We've seen this with great teams who can't rebound when they're out rebounded. Think of the 73-9 Warriors, right, against that Cavaliers team. They could not stop Tristan Thompson on the offensive glass. That was the biggest problem for them in that series was Thompson was able to switch and cover their guards and make things tough on the three-point shooters because Thompson was athletic enough at the time to switch and defend the three-point line. And Cleveland just offensive rebounded the hell out of them because they weren't able to get there. And then when you start focusing so much like, hey, we got to rebound as a team. Well, what do you start doing when all you're focusing on is rebounding as a team? What do you stop doing? You stop closing out on shooters. You stop defending three-point shooters. So rebounding, it's one of those funny stats, right? Like we hear like, well, they're getting killed on the glass. Well, yeah, usually a team that's losing is getting killed on the glass because the other team's missing less shots. So the other team, the team that misses more shots, the other team's usually going to have more rebounds. It's just how that works. So if me and you were playing one-on-one and you beat me 11-3, I bet you that you had way more rebounds than me because I missed a lot more shots. That's just how that goes, right? But offensive rebounding is going to be really, really important. If Denver kills them if Miami's unable to mitigate the offensive rebounding, it's going to be a long, long day for them because Denver certainly does have the shooters, big shooters, but shooters nonetheless. Murray, KCP, Gordon, Porter, all of these guys can shoot the three. Bruce Brown off the bench. So they're going to have to really do some work on the defensive glass. It's going to be a huge factor. If you're watching a game and you just see Denver getting put back after putback, Miami's got no shot.
Now, am I crazy for the Sens? Is Malone the best opposing coach that Spo has faced this playoff series?
Yeah, probably. I'm trying to remember everyone they played in the playoffs. So
so they played. They beat Toronto. No. Sorry,
Yep.
They didn't. They lost to Atlanta. So they lost to Snyder. Then
better there.
They beat in the play-in, they beat Donovan, beat Bud, beat Tibbs, and just beat Mazzulla. Yeah,
I like Tom Thibodeau quite a bit. What he does defensively, he makes things so tough for other teams. But I mean, I don't think that's a reach at all. I think Malone's probably he's got more balance. Like when you think Tom Thibodeau, your teams are probably going to struggle offensively and be really good defense. It's like hiring one of the Ryan brothers to be your head coach in the NFL. Okay, we're going to have good defense, but our offense, and I'm not saying the Knicks offense was terrible. They have some nice players, but certainly, it's hampered by a guy who's going to be very defensive minded like Thibodeau. But I would say it would go for me Malone 1, Thibodeau 2.
Yeah. Now, here's a question for you. There's one current NBA coach who has gone over his season win total every single year he's been a head coach. Do you know who that coach is?
What do I feel like? It's maybe Nick Nurse, but it's not. It's going to be someone in this. I guess Mike Malone, I'll guess.
2 for 2, my friend. Michael Malone.
There we go.
Every single year.
Although I do think Nick Nurse would have been interesting because, his team's kind of overachieved. Like, it seemed like he would have been close.
So you mentioned Nurse. Hired in Philly.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I'm not sure how much coaches matter. I don't know if it's going to change the X's and O's. And I don't know how much it changes, if anything. Like Doc Rivers, the same kind of guy, won one title or a couple. It was with the Celtics, has been relatively unsuccessful everywhere else. Until they realize the NBA, this is not a league where you're 7-footer, where a post-up 7-footer who you run into the ground all year long and whose body can't hold up in the playoffs. I think they got it. Like, this might be a hot take. I don't think you're winning a title around Joel Embiid with him as your primary number one guy. Joel Embiid needs to be, and people would say, well, they have James Harden. James Harden's not a number one guy. James Harden chokes in big moments every single year of his career. There's a reason he doesn't have a title. Like, it was not surprising to watch James Harden struggle after having a big game to keep him in it and then to struggle in the next one to actually win the series. No, that's what James Harden does. But I don't think you can win a title going into the post to Joel Embiid and then every once in a while allowing him to shoot a three. He needs a Kobe like Shaq did. And Shaq was in a different era, but Shaq wasn't winning a title by himself either. James Harden's not a Kobe. Joel Embiid, if he's the league MVP, if he's the guy leading the league in scoring and doing, then that team is not going to win the title. Will they make the playoffs? Sure. Were they going to be fun to watch? Depending if you like big men, depending on your perspective. But for me, it's not the coach. Doc Rivers and Nick Nurse, exactly the same to me, know a lot about the NBA. They won a title somewhere. They've got the respect of their peers. They should be able to keep the bigger egos in check. But is Joel Embiid going to respect Nick Nurse more than he did Doc Rivers? Tough. It's hard for me to imagine that on a lot of levels.
Yeah. The one thing I'll say about Nurse is at least he'll change stuff. So if there's a handful of coaches that like Spoelstra will change, Nurse will change. But I feel like with Doc and Bud, they're like, hey, this is what we do. And you know what? We're just going to keep on doing it. Even if it doesn't work, Malone will change. So I think that is it. I am worried, though, because he does play starters a lot of minutes, like Williams if he runs and beat into the ground. But I've been saying this for 3 years now. You will never win a title with Embiid as your number one. And
it's not because I'm not getting Joel Embiid's the best or the second best center in the league behind Jokic. Of course, I think Jokic is a point center. It's just crazy. What Jokic is one of the most unique things, if not the most unique thing I've ever seen in the NBA. LeBron, Magic, this dude's a legit center who will beat you with a post, but he can average double-digit assists. It's like a player you make in the video game, and you make all of his ratings 99 just so you can try to average a triple-double. It's unbelievably phenomenal. But Joel Embiid's fantastic. He's a great player. Great player. And everything he overcame, after being drafted, all the back issues that he had, it took him a few years to even be able to get to like Joel Embiid's fantastic. But that recipe, the recipe of saying, hey, our best player, our number one guy, our go-to guy, it's going to be dribble it down, dump it into the post, and work out from there. I'm sorry, it's not Hakeem Olajuwon on the Rockets anymore. It's just not going to work. So no, and unless they need to minimalize his role on the offensive end. He needs to be a big-time rebounder, and they need scoring around him. Otherwise, Joel Embiid, number one, is not going to be able to hold up to even be there when you need him. You want to do this in the postseason, sure, when his body's fresh and you're able to go to him when it matters. But it's just not the recipe for success in the NBA.
I agree 100%. I've been preaching this for a couple of years now. Now we're going to shift over. We're going to talk some bets. Kyle has 3. I have 3. I have to warn you, I changed my last bet. because
nice.
I changed it to something else. Kyle, bet number one, my friend.
Yeah, so we're talking about the series, and I think Denver are going to win. But I sure do like the Heat in game one. And even if you don't want to take them to win, plus 8.5 is too many points. They played a couple times this year. Both games were close. I think they were decided by, 5 and 2 points. Both games were pretty close. But we've seen this a lot. Denver hasn't played in, 10 days or something? It's been a while since Denver last played a basketball game. And I revert back to those Shaq and Kobe Lakers, where they swept their way through the Western Conference playoffs. They didn't lose a single game in the playoffs. In fact, they only lost one the entire thing, including the finals, and that was game one of the NBA Finals to Allen Iverson and the Sixers. Sixers were coming off a hard-fought conference finals. They weren't a great team by any stretch, but they had to keep playing. And look, Miami, they're getting a couple of days off here in between games. They've been playing a hard-fought series. Denver has not played in over a week. I think there's going to be a little bit of rust here. I like the Heat winning game one. Denver sort of going on a run here. So I'm going to take the Heat in game one, Denver to win the series at 5-1. It's just a nice one. Otherwise, what am I taking? Denver minus 400 right now to win the finals? No, thank you. You got to find a way to get creative. I'm saying the Heat win game one, a little less rust on their bodies, a little bit of adrenaline flowing. I'm going to take the Heat game one and Denver to win the series 5-1.
So I gave out 20-1 a while ago, like Jesus, back when the season started. I am not hedging 20-1. I'm letting that bad boy fly.
Yep.
Nuggets sweep the Heat. Do you guys like that bet? I think the Heat win one.
Yeah, I think they get two. I think they get game one and game four. And you can take, well, we'll talk about that next. But we can talk about that when we get to our next bets.
So my first one, and I'm sorry, I locked it in off over minus 1.5. I would play it up to 8.5. I was out twice this playoff series. Teams that play a game 7 to a game 1 since 2023 are 29% ATS. You look this year, the Warriors went to game 7 against the Kings. They lost game 1 against the Lakers. And then the Celtics went 7 with the 76ers, and the Heat beat them. So I'm just going with the trend here. I locked it in at 7.5. I wouldn't go much higher than 8.5, though. You know,
I'll take those 8.5. I'll take all those points. I think this is a close game. I think the Heat win this game. I really do.
I mean, in a perfect world, this lands on 8. That way we both
right.
Perfect world. Perfect world. It looks at it.
Love that. I love that tweet too. Like, look at that. 2 different sides, 2 winners, same game. Love that. Love the idea. Now the ideas are flowing. Okay.
Bet number 2, my friend.
Yeah, so I talked about it. I do think the series goes 6. I think Miami's good enough in spots. So where can you get to Denver? You can sort of get to them defensively in the backcourt. I do think Jimmy Butler's good for – we've seen it. This guy's got – I'm not the biggest Jimmy Butler guy. I thought he was really douchey with the Timberwolves when they got the young guys, Towns, etc. I thought he was really douchey there. I thought he got a little big for his britches too in Philadelphia with Simmons, and now we're seeing kind of probably some of his frustrations with Simmons, but nonetheless, still just kind of someone like, okay, guy, we get it. You're a good basketball player. You're not great, but there's something about him in the playoffs. And I do think if Denver struggles enough offensively in a game or two, especially early in the series, Jimmy Butler will be able to do enough where they get at least one at home. Not a great home team. We saw that in the Eastern Conference Finals. Neither one of those teams were great at home, but I think they get game 1. Again, I'm hedging a lot on game 1 here, but I just got a gut feeling here, and I don't like this layout for Denver, so I'm going to say that Nuggets in 6, and you can get that at 4-1. So
that's a good price.
Why exactly? So can I tell you why that's a good price? So even if I just go, I'm at BetMGM right now. Okay. Just a site that lots of people have exposure to. Okay. How long will the series last? Essentially, how many games? So you can get it in 6, which a lot of people take in 6. You know what I mean? Like, this team in 6, this team in 6. It makes a lot of sense. It happens a lot. 6 games is plus 240. Now, if I take a minus 400 favorite in Denver to win it in 6 games, I'm getting it at 4-1. So in my mind, I'm almost getting Nuggets at plus 160 if I feel real confident about the 6 games. So you're flipping like $5 on the Nuggets here by just parlaying in how many games it was. and you're even getting a better value by taking the big minus 400 favorite in 6. Why would you take 6 games and not just take the favorite and add $1.60 to it? So I'm taking the Nuggets in 6 at 4-1.
Perfect sense. I like that. I agree. I think this is his last chance to win a championship. My next bet. This is probably a bet I'm going to be doing a lot with the game by game stuff.
Yeah.
For the series, though, I'm going Caleb Martin to averaging under 15.4 points per game. Anyone that watches this or listens to my podcast, I'm all about shot regression and these guys going back to the median. Round 1, okay, he shot 63% from the floor, 43% from three-point range, averaged 11.2 points. Round 2, 45.8% from the floor, 35.7%, 10.5 points. During the regular season, 9.6 points per game, shooting 46% from the floor, 36 from 3. Round 3 against the Celtics, 60% from the floor, 48.9% from 3, averaging 19.3 points. His shooting averages are going to come down. They're going to come back to the norm. And I'm going to say it. Denver has better wing defenders. You have KCP, Bruce Brown, Aaron Gordon. You have different wing players, and Malone's smart. Malone's like, dude, we're not going to let Caleb Martin get hot. We're going to have someone on there to try to stop him. Plus, also, let's not forget the big rumor, and the Heat beat reporter I follow, and the guy I know in the Heat organization says right now it's looking like Hero's going to be a go in game 3.
Yeah, no.
Hero's a
Caleb
go
Martin.
3. That's all that's going to do is cut into Martin's production. And I'm getting this at 15.4. I'm all about Martin averaging under 15.4 for this finals.
Okay, first of all, you blew my mind because I didn't know that you could even bet that. You can bet that?
Oh, dude, just wait till you see my next bet, dude.
The points per game I had for a player, I swear to you on my life, I've never seen it.
I was messing around on DK, and I was like,
and DraftKings is the state book here. You have to use in Oregon. Unless you're doing offshore, which I of course have offshore accounts, but if you're doing legalized statewide betting, you have to use DraftKings. I did not know 15.4 is very specific. DraftKings too. Good. But I have a greasy theory. How do we know? Because all of a sudden, Caleb Martin's just fresh. He's ready to run amok. How do we know that wasn't twin brother Cody out there for a couple of those games giving Caleb a rest?
He pulled a Marcus Morris?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Was it a Marcus? We have a Morris Brothers situation happening.
Yeah, Morris Brothers situation.
I did not know. I'm seriously sitting here just blown away that you can bet their points per game under. But I love that one for the record. You're right. Oh, Tyler Hero's going to gobble up a ton of those shots.
You ready to get blown away? In the Nuggets series against the Lakers, they had who would get like a matchup, like a regular game, who would have more threes, and it was it opened up as a pick'em, Porter against LeBron.
Wow. And then LeBron misses like 15 in a row. Yeah, I can't wait to talk about Michael Porter here because I got a crazy bet on Michael Porter. I don't think it's that crazy, but nonetheless.
Give it to him.
I mean, look at it. 200-1. So look, we're not betting Jokic minus 350. Like I said, if I'm betting 50 grand, I'll bet Jokic to win the MVP. Okay. But if I'm looking for some value and some meat on the bone, Michael Porter at 200-1, and you got to hear me out here. So number one, we talked about Spoelstra. We talked about the Heat being the number one defensive team against opposing centers in terms of fantasy points allowed in the NBA. How many times have we seen this in the NBA Finals, especially recently? It's not necessarily the star that gets the MVP trophy. Andre Iguodala comes to mind with all that star-studded Warriors teams. Last year, I know that Curry finally got it. The year before, who the hell was it? I had this whole list of them.
Yeah, Wiggins should have won it last year.
Yeah, Wiggins should have won it. But again, that's not Steph Curry or Klay Thompson or Draymond Green, right? It's one of these tertiary players who, and if you look at the Heat, right, and if we look at fantasy points right now, that's where they actually kind of struggle is the 3/4 position. Some of these stretch guys. Can't you see a world where, okay, Jokic is killing us, we got to double him. Michael Porter's open for 3. Can't you see a world where, hey, we're playing straight up on everyone. We need a guy who can kind of create his own shot, and when he gets open, knock down a three. That's Michael Porter's got the talent to score. He's got the talent to do like a Caleb Martin type run in the Eastern Conference Finals. This is a guy who averages 16 a game. The Heat are going to be focused on what you talked about, Jamal Murray, who we all know they got to stop. And look, the Miami Heat, they will be until the end of time with this current roster, great defensively against backcourts. In fact, they allowed the third fewest fantasy points to opposing point guards in the league this year. But when you have guys like Kyle Lowry, Jimmy Butler, Gabe Vincent, these are good backcourt defensive players. Things are going to be tough for Jamal Murray. You know they're going to try to make things tough on Jokic, and by the numbers, they're the most equipped team in the league to do so, despite the lack of size. They've been very, very good against the position. Who's the next guy to step up? Who's the guy that's going to be open for three? Who's the guy that's going to hit those big shots? Michael Porter Jr. 200 to 1. $10 wins you $2,000. Come on.
So, and I think the thing that people forgot about Porter was how good of a rebounder he is. And
yeah, he's a fantastic rebounder.
With the lack of size that the Heat have, he could potentially just be getting double-double after double-double after double-double. I bet Porter double-double in every game against the Lakers. And the lowest price I got was 5 to 1. He was 5 to 1 or greater for a double-double in every game. And now it's dropped down to 280, but I think he's going to eat, and he's going to get some open looks from three. I absolutely love that bet. I actually, after you told me you're going to bet this, I sprinkled a little bit on it.
I mean, why not?
You have to, because if the game plan is to take Jamal away, you got Porter who can shoot the three, he can rebound, he can drive to the hoop. And look, in my head of heads, I think we're going to see Aaron Gordon's minutes decrease, and that's going to lead to more Porter opportunity. My last bet, KCP to average 2.1 triples a game.
I did not know you could do this. That's so weird. So, 2.1 is really the number?
2.1 is the number. Now here at minus 115. Okay. Now, one of my bets, I'm going to tell you what, 3 days of rest or plus, he shoots 60% from three on the season. Okay. And we saw it when we go to his game log over here at StatMuse. He had that big rest. Oh my God, what game was it? With the Phoenix game. He had 4 games rest for that, and he went 3 of 8 from behind the arc. Okay. So I think he's going to get some open looks. You look at him against the Lakers, he averaged 6.8 attempts per game, shot 44%. Okay. His shooting percentage has increased every single round. Round 1, 36, round 2, 41.7, and then round 3, 44.5. If the intel I'm being told is correct, that they're going to leave KCP Gordon open for threes, I have to take this bet just based on the intel, and it's always been right. And it's only 2.1. And if he's getting 6 shots a game and he's shooting over 40%, that's just math at this point. So
yeah, I love it. Well, I love everything about it, and I love how specific it is. I don't know. Specificity is a really hard word to say. 2.1, not 2, not 2.2, 2.1 threes per game. I would love it if you hit that right on the nose.
So yeah, I'm looking at the 3 market right now at DK. Caleb Martin, 2.2. Murray, 3.6. Jimmy Butler, 0.9. KCP, 2.1. Porter Jr., 2.8. Joker, 1.4. It is just amazing.
How about this? Man. I'm looking at final series top assists. Nikola Jokic, a 7'1" white Serbian plotting center, looks like Sam Bowie when he was drafted, is minus 10,000 to have the most assists in the series. That is insane. I don't bet it. It's ridiculous. But just how weird is that? That's just weird. It's just weird.
It's mind-boggling. The one I was looking at for that, and I wanted to like give your opinion. So we're gonna go with the thought process that the Heat aren't gonna allow Murray to get his. Murray currently total threes made in the finals is -175. Next, we have Porter at +380, Strus +700, Caleb Martin, who I'm just taking off the board, at 9-1. Then we go into Gabe Vincent, 14-1, KCP at 18-1.
I mean, I like Michael Porter. It's just
I kind of like Porter there, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And
I think there's
you know
some
what?
value.
Now I feel like I'm getting too much on it. Like when you look at top rebounds, so the most rebounds in the series, like Nikola Jokic is priced like he's Jesus Christ himself. Like, so he's minus 10,000 to have the most rebounds. He's minus 10,000 to have the most assists. He is plus 130 to be the top scorer. So I guess that's where you can find your value, because he's certainly got the ability to be the top scorer in the series too. But what in the hell? Most assists and rebounds, minus 10,000 for Jokic. So you know what that means, right? When you get a number like that on a favorite, the next guy is so valued. Like, so Jimmy Butler's assists, and he's going to have a lot of usage. He's 14-1. The second worst odds, how we would describe it, the second least amount of bang for your buck, if you will, is 14-1 on assists. On rebounds, the opposing center, Bam Adebayo, 7-1 to have the most rebounds. Now, hear me out here. If Denver is winning this series, that means they're scoring more points than the Heat on 4 out of the 5 or 4 out of the 4 or 4, however many games it is. They're scoring more points than the Heat, which means what? Usually they're making more shots, getting to the free throw line, making more shots. Yeah. So the other team, like we just talked about, right, it's just insane to me that you can get the opposing center. So if you're a person like, hey, I think the Heat can stretch this out or move this along, Bam Adebayo is 7-1. That's crazy. Michael Porter, by the way, 40-1.
I mean, I would put. All right, so
Aaron Gordon, who gets a lot of rebounds for the Nuggets, by the way. I'll have to pull up his season stats. He's 100-1 to have the most rebounds in the series. Aaron Gordon. Right, think about it. If he out-rebounds Jokic, it's unbelievable.
I'm looking at it right now. 14, 6, 17, 21. That was Jokic's rebounds. So here's my thing. Now hear me out. Like you're a Laker fan, as we're talking out these futures. AD, best defensive center. I think we can both agree he's a light years better center defensively than Bam Adebayo.
Absolutely.
And we're seeing plus 115 for Joker to be the leading scorer. And if the intel is right, you know what I mean?
I'm looking at plus 130s for top scorer. The only Jokic thing I'm betting is him to be the top scorer at plus 130. That's the only one I bet.
What book is that on, my friend?
That's at BetMGM.
I'm going to BetMGM, right? Because if they're really going to say Joker, you get yours. I mean, obviously there'll be that one Jimmy game, but Jimmy looks tired. Jimmy looks slow. Yeah. Jimmy looks beat up.
Oh, his buckets are a lot harder to come by than Jokic. Jokic gets easy buckets. He's right there.
We're going to add that in. This is a co-sign bet from Kyle and I. We're going to go Michael Porter Jr. to have the most threes, and we're going to go Joker to be the leading scorer. We're adding those on, plus the 3 bets we handed out. Make sure you please give my boy Kyle a follow at the DFS Bachelor. Subscribe to his YouTube channel. He's coming out with videos. When that gets to NFL, you want to make sure you give him a follow, because he breaks down slot, wide receiver to slot corner, matchups, the whole 9 yards. Plus, he has a daily show on BetUS. Why don't you tell everyone when that is?
Yeah, Monday through Friday, noon Eastern. We break down the day's Major League Baseball card. I had a really good hot streak, and then one of the worst cold streaks I've ever had in my life. It was a very depressing 2-week stretch, but we have a lot of fun on there. We even have a guy who's in his 50s who raps every Friday, the Base Winner Rap, which we love. So come in, we answer the questions. It gets wild in the chat box in there. So Monday through Friday, noon Eastern, covering baseball every single day.
Make sure to check that out. Make sure to give my boy Kyle a follow, and Dude, I always enjoy doing work with you, and I look forward to having you on again, my friend.
Thank you so much, dude. I had a lot of fun. I didn't even know I was going to be on here an hour. I don't even know what the hell happened. We just went crazy.
Dude, this flew by, man. This flew by.
My girlfriend's glaring at me like, what the hell are you doing? You said it'd be 10 minutes. I'm like, yeah.
No, the fact that you just yelled at me.
I didn't yell at anyone. Here we are.